NKC.
Yes, yes, please, if you could stay on the call, but mute yourself and take yourself off video.
Gotcha.
And you'll be off video
Eric,
when
shall
we
go?
consider that item. Yes, sir, if you're ready.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regular council meeting, July 7th, 2020. Pledge allegiance.
Councilmember DeLong, will you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. The next item is comments from the public, and we have 3 tonight.
Do we need to approve the agenda?
I apologize, sir. Please do.
Call the roll too.
Yes, I jumped the gun. I apologize.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I believe the next item now is comments from the public, and there are 3. The first is from Kathy Bergen, Mid-States Heavy Duty Representation LLC Manager, 310 Armour Road, Suite 202. It reads, I would advise against the August 11th date for the Armour Road Complete Street meeting. The city still has many businesses that this next phase will greatly impact, not operating at full capacity. These businesses, which generate the dollars the city uses to operate, need to be fully included in further discussions about road alterations. I do understand the need to get the economy running again, but feel having a meeting in August during the COVID-19 pandemic is too soon. It may seem like the city is once again trying to sneak this through. I realize the city feels it had done its due diligence during the first few rounds of the project, but from what I heard in the October meeting, that was not the case. I found out quite by accident the day of and then attended the extremely awkward October meeting. I would like North Kansas City to be very aggressive in their public notification for the meeting. All citizens and businesses need to be contacted in some way. Postcards, emails, and social media, people need to know. I certainly think the move to the high school performing arts center is brilliant. I passed many prominent business people on my way out of the October meeting who did not take opportunity to speak due to the late hour. The business community makes or breaks a city. It would be prudent to find a way to work through their concerns in a transparent way. The next item, comment from the public, is from Diane Peters, 2304 Fayette Street. It reads, thank you to the North Kansas City Police Department for publishing your citizen complaint process on your website. This is progress. However, please remove this statement from your website. False reporting in an attempt to unjustly subject a police employee to undeserved discipline or place his or her employment in jeopardy can result in criminal charges and/or civil suit. This statement is hyperbole, not based on the law, and is only meant to discourage citizens from complaining. I am an attorney who has worked with law enforcement for 17 years in the Kansas City area. I cannot recall a single time that a citizen had criminal charges filed against him or her or has been sued by a police department for filing a citizen complaint against an officer. What possibly would be the criminal charge you envision? I can think of none. A civil lawsuit could only be based on defamation. A review of Overcast v. Billings Mutual Insurance Company, citation given, demonstrates how difficult a viable defamation claim would be against a complaining citizen. The next comment, public comment, is also from Diane Peters, 2304 Fayette Street. It reads, the City Council pledges to fight racism and celebrate diversity in resolution number 20-042. Pledges are nice, action is nicer. 1. North Kansas City Ordinance 9.36 outlaws housing discrimination based on race, sex, color, religion, and national origin, but not sexual orientation and gender identity, physical and mental disabilities, and marital status. Please update this ordinance to include these categories. 2. North Kansas City has no ordinances making it a violation of municipal law to discriminate in employment and public accommodations. Change that. 3. Repeal North Kansas City Ordinance 9.12.080, which authorizes private citizens to use deadly force against other citizens under certain circumstances when making a citizen's arrest. 4. Update North Kansas City Ordinance 9.12.070, subsections C, 2A, and B, which permits officers to use deadly force in violation of federal law under Tennessee v. Gardner, citation given, and Graham v. Connor, citation given. That concludes public comments. Next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve.
Second.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper, Councilmember Saper,
You're still muted, Councilmember Saper.
You, there it goes.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
8-0, motion carries. Number 9, resolution, ongoing conversation on matters of race, inclusion, and policing. Resolution number 20-042.
Thank you. On June 25th, I issued a statement in support of an ongoing conversation between the community and the city on matters of race, inclusion, and policing. Councilmember DeLong asked that the statement be put into resolution form for consideration by the City Council. Councilmember DeLong.
I was going to read a short statement I had real quick. First, I want to thank City Administrator Berlin for writing up this statement initially and releasing on behalf of the city. I asked you to have this added tonight in the form of a resolution because I thought it was important that the City Council show via our votes how important these issues are to our governing body. It's past time that we stand up and condemn the unnecessary deaths of Black individuals like George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, a Black man who was hunted and executed in broad daylight. It's sick how many similar stories there are like George Floyd's and Ahmaud Arbery's. I believe this resolution is an important step in standing up with our colleagues, our neighbors, and our friends. It's about acknowledging that racism does still exist and also celebrating our diversity. But we also need to recognize that these are just words. In this form, they mean little. The deeper conversations we have in this community, the actions we take, that'll be where the difference is made here. I'm glad that City Council is considering this resolution, and I hope this is just the beginning and not the end. It's also my hope that we can get unanimous support in standing up to racism. That's all I got.
Councilmember Smith.
I also want to echo that and say thanks, Eric, for putting the statement out. I was hoping that we could get signatures on it along with Eric's to show our support up front, but I'm glad Bryant brought this forward. Speaking of these being words and actions being important, Eric, could you get us a copy of the proposed changes that Diane Peters listed out in her public comments? I'd like to take a look at those sections of the code so that we could consider those. They sound like pretty good options, and I don't have any background on them, so I'd like to take a look. That'd be helpful.
Sure, I'll forward those emails to you.
Thank you.
Councilmember DeLong and then Mayor Stilo.
Well, I was going to move to approve it, so if he's got something to say first, I'll let him go ahead.
Mayor Stilo. Mr. Steeler, you're muted.
There we go. Well, I was just wondering, does this answer any of Mrs. Peters' concerns?
No, sir, I don't. She had very specific concerns that I don't think are addressed in the resolution.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
All right, then if we're ready, I'll move to approve resolution number 20042.
Second.
Second.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Absolutely, yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
8-0, motion carries. Number 10, appointment of Rita Pierce to the Tax Increment Financing TIF Commission, replacing Denise Lambert.
Councilmember DeLong?
I just have one question. Normally these are on the consent agenda. Is there a particular reason that this is on the regular agenda as opposed to consent?
No, sir, there isn't. Probably should have put them on the consent agenda, but there's no reason for it.
Okay, okay. I was just curious. Thank you. Then I'll move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Not without support of the League of Women Voters 2020 TIF study. I cannot support any candidate who does not endorse that. No.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Okay, 7-1, motion carried. Number 11, appointment of Rita Pierce to the Industrial Development Authority IDA Board, replacing Denise Lambert.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
No.
I'm just confirming, that was a no.
No.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
7-1, motion carried. Number 12, appointment of Lisa Tull to the Crummett Beautification Committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
8-0, motion carried. Number 13, request to establish a private garden on city property.
Thank you. So not too long ago, the city responded to an inquiry about a garden behind the home at 1016 East 25th Avenue, which is located on a piece of property that's owned by the city between the running track on Clark Ferguson Road, the high school running track, and a number of homes on East 25th Avenue. Because the city's public works department maintains this area, we had been aware of that garden, which according to the property owner at that address has existed for 14 years. We hadn't been aware that the garden was electrified. That did present an issue, and we did ask them to de-electrify the fence, which they did. We've now received a new request from a neighboring resident asking permission to put their own garden in. They did at our request provide a sketch showing the location and dimensions of the proposed garden. I didn't feel that I had the authority to grant that request on my own, so I did feel it should come to the council. Staff has no issue with whatever the council's comfortable with, but as I just felt that it should be the council that would approve this request if you did. So it's now before you. Councilmember Clevenger.
Just a quick question on both of these gardens. Neither one of them would interfere with any of like utilities, if they had to get to the utilities or anything like that. I know that maybe I don't know if there's sewer lines that run underneath. Just want to know about that.
No, sir. And Pat Hauber, unless you had any thoughts about it, I don't believe we have any concerns about that. Pat, are you there and can you comment?
Yes, there are no utilities in that area.
Thank you. Councilmember DeLong and then Councilmember Stewart.
He says, Mr. Barzee on tonight. A chance.
I apologize. Can you repeat that?
Is Mr. Barzee on tonight?
Oh, yes, he is. Tom?
And maybe you had the answer to this too. There's no sort of like adverse possession law or anything that would apply here, where these people are just using the land and could lay claim to it at some point.
Tom, could you speak to that? I believe Tom is. Yeah, there we go.
I'm sorry. I didn't. Would you repeat your question?
Okay. Do you know what? We're on the garden item.
Right.
So my question was, is there any sort of adverse possession laws or anything that apply here where these people would at some point maybe have some sort of claim to ownership?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, there is none because the law prohibits, at least in the state of Missouri, the law prohibits any public property being taken by adverse possession. In other words, if the city owns it, we can't have a third party come in and acquire it by adverse possession. Okay,
perfect. Thank you.
Your question? Okay.
Yeah, that's all I needed. Thank you.
You bet.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, I walked down and looked at it. If you park in the Parks Department parking lot and start down there, you can't even see it. It's so small. You have to get real close. It's pretty small. It's not hurting anything. I noticed though that the new request is the 1000 block. Now the old one's the 800 block, and there's a lot more room back there than there is in the 1000. As long as this new resident realizes, the wheel track is there, as long as he doesn't impede anything there, I don't see any problem with either of the gardens. If nobody complained, and how long that woman say she had hers? Double digits in years. But anyway, I walked down there. There's no problem with all that. It's probably a good use for the land.
Just if I may comment, Councilmember Stewart, and then I'll call on Councilmember Saper. Our understanding of the new request is that it is located at 1004 East 25th Avenue, just a few doors down from the current garden.
Oh, that's right. I used to live in the 1000 block, 25th. Where's my head? Yeah, there is no 800 block on that side of the street anyway. Okay.
Yeah. Councilmember Saper? Councilmember Saper, you muted. Can you unmute?
I'm only concerned about precedent here. Should we actually create a process that people can ask to use public land for such things as gardens on an annual basis?
I don't think we're going to have an opportunity for many of these requests. So the procedure that I was establishing was to come to council and get your approval.
Okay.
Councilmember DeLong.
So I guess my follow-up to his question would be, in terms of setups like this in the city, this is the only one that I know about off the top of my head where there's that much public land right behind a row of houses. Is there other places where this could apply?
Not that we're aware of, no, sir.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, it sounds like these gardens are kind of in that no man's land between the field and the back of those houses, and it doesn't seem to be anybody's way. But the way Councilwoman Saper mentioned, the precedent of this, there are other pieces of land, for example, across 32nd north of North Village is a pretty good chunk of land what I wouldn't want to see is people just kind of planting gardens wherever they wanted, and then thinking, this is okay. Like, this is something the city's just gonna say, put a rubber stamp on it. If there was, a push to have a community garden or something more organized, that might be a better way forward than just saying okay to any request that comes across on city's land. So I wonder if this could set a bad precedent. I want people to be able to grow their gardens, their flowers, their vegetables. Is there a reason that the yards could not be utilized for this? Is there something blocking off the yards from being where the garden's placed? Because it seems to be right over the property line. Do we know about that?
I believe they could probably use their own property for a garden. It's just probably having that availability of that city property is probably just an attractive proposition for that particular property owners making the request.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Stewart.
We did have a community garden on the north side of 32nd, right next to Bosford's. And of course, it didn't work out because most of the produce was eaten by animals, but we have done that before. We had requests before. And what you got to make sure of when they ask for a community garden, because they asked for it at the new parking lot for the school down on end of 24th, one, we gave it to the school and let them make a parking lot. When that was just dirt, this association wanted to have a public garden, and it ended up with they would take applications, and most of the applications they was going to grant was non-citizens. They couldn't guarantee the garden spots, and they wanted us to bring water to it. And so it's hard to do, and you got to look at and cross the T's and dot the I's if they ever request a large community thing, and make sure it's for our residents. That's it.
Mayor Stilo.
Yes, I don't see anything wrong with it, but I was just wondering what happened to the community garden they wanted to do down there at the Y.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Well, they are in fact working on constructing a greenhouse right now. They're on the Y grounds, so that's in process.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Smith and then Councilmember Tull.
So I think in your earlier comment, Eric, you mentioned that the fence had been electrified, and then staff noticed, or some employees of the city noticed, and asked them to de-electrify it. I'm hoping that we've made it clear going forward that they're not to electrify fences. So I'm wondering if somebody had come across that and their child had been shocked or something had happened, and it's on city property. Would there be any liability to the city if something like that happens in the future? What would our liability be for allowing that use of land?
Well, Mr. Barzee can speak, but my understanding is that once we become aware of an issue, that's when liability can accrue. So once we became aware that the other garden did have electrification, we did tell them that presented a liability issue for us and that they would need to de-electrify.
That is correct.
Thanks.
Councilmember Tull.
I think it's a great use of land. The only thing that I would ask is, because the public were in charge of mowing that area, I would assume. So if they used a raised box or anything, if they could weed eat close to it so that the city doesn't have to make that more difficult. I mean, I'm in support of the garden. I'm just thinking we might be signing up for more work, but I'm sure they'd be willing to help out with that to be able to get the garden.
We can let them know of that concern if you do approve this request.
Okay.
Councilmember Clark.
Yeah, I too am in favor. I think I just wanted to be clear because I saw like a strip all the way around to say this is all the city land, but they're just interested in their little nugget behind their home. And so I imagine maybe that would lead the neighboring properties to go, us too, which may not be a bad idea. And maybe they can help to maintain, or we can work that into the deal. I think I also want the understanding that we still have a pretty open door policy that if for any reason that property needs to be utilized for any other purpose, it'll just be known that we still make the decision of that going away, or, right? I mean, we still wouldn't lose rights to the property. We're just allowing it to be temporarily used for a garden, correct?
Yeah, per Mr. Barzzi's response to Councilmember DeLong, that would be correct. If we ever needed
Okay.
it, we could say, sorry, you can't have the garden anymore.
Sure. Yep. Well, yeah, I'm for it.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I'm just making sure we're moving to approve the new request and to let the other one stay. Is that what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item, discussion of August 11th public meeting on the Armor Road Complete Street Project.
Thank you. At its meeting of April 21st, the City Council set August 11th as a date for a public meeting on the Armor Road Complete Street Project. The Performing Arts Center at North Kansas City High School has been reserved for this meeting. Staff's been going on the assumption that it would be conducted similarly to the October 15th, 2019 town hall type of meeting on this topic. And Mayor Stilo has requested reconsideration, or at least some further discussion of this meeting. Mayor Stilo?
Yes, you know, I don't want to sit through another 3-hour meeting and hear the same thing over and over. You know, I'm in favor of this if we can come up with some kind of an agenda or rules or something to where, you know, people can get up and do their talk, but then we don't need somebody getting up right behind them and saying the same thing. I think we need to reach out to more of our business. And I do know a lot of our business community was here the last time and they didn't get a chance to talk. So I think we need to come up with you know, some way that where we can control this thing better than what we did the last time.
Councilmember Stewart? Then
Yeah,
Councilmember
let's
Toll?
see. August the 11th, I still have concerns about public gatherings of that large. I've never been down there and see the new building, but are we going to go in and, I mean, how do you do the distancing? You don't know how many people are coming as a couple or a family, so you can't say every 6th chair or something. I don't know. I'll see what everybody else thinks about a large gathering, and we're not meeting in public now. That's just my opinion.
Councilmember Toll?
I was at the meeting. I thought everyone got a chance to speak. Are we saying that not everybody was allowed to speak at the meeting? And then I have a follow-up to that.
So we had people register, and everyone who registered did speak. Now, I think there may have been people who, when they saw the large crowds, may have decided not to.
Okay,
sign
but
up
we
and
didn't
speak.
turn anybody away.
No. No, we
Okay,
did
so
not.
then the next thing, following up on Mr. Stewart, is that we do know that inside is more dangerous than outside. So if we were going to go forward with a large meeting, it would be better to do in the outdoor football field area, I would think, than inside, or an online option. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith and then Councilmember Clevenger.
So to touch on that as well, I think the football field is the better option. I appreciate that we've gone and gotten ahead of things with preserving the Performing Arts Center, but indoors, as the emerging information comes forth, indoors is the circulated air. We're going to have a larger spread potential, so we can assure that people can distance if we hold it out on the football field or even at the Mackin Pavilion. so that we can be outdoors. In that vein, we could also, as the public comment requested, could potentially push the meeting back until early fall where the weather would be more conducive outdoors, and we could see where the numbers are for COVID. It still does feel early to assume that it's safe to gather what will likely be hundreds of people. And then to the point of people not having an opportunity to speak, I wholeheartedly disagree. They didn't have the opportunity. They had the chance. Some people did get to City Hall and had to turn around because they couldn't get inside. But they were able to put their name on a list and then come back and talk. Some chose not to. And to that, I say, like, that was the option they took. You are more, I think it's extremely important to have public comments. We need to hear from our residents. We need to hear from our businesses. We need to hear from employees of those businesses, people who come to town to enjoy North Kansas City. We need to hear from these people. What I do worry about, and I've spoken to Mayor Steele about this, is the interest groups who bring a crowd of people to make a point and then do get on the mic and say the same thing over and over and over again. I don't know if there's a way to say, if you're coming with a group, thank you for showing up, thank you for your interest, but we want one person on the mic from that group. I'm not sure how that looks or how it would work, but I think public comments are absolutely essential on a matter this important to the city. That's my take.
So I'll call on Councilmember Clevenger and then Councilmember DeLong. Just a quick comment, and then Mayor Stilo. We know that the Performing Arts Center is available on August 11th. We have not talked to the school district about the football field. So if that's something that interests the council, we can do that, but I can't tell you right now that that is available or a possibility, but we can look into it if that's something council would like us to do. Councilmember Clevenger.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, looking at large gatherings, I mean, that's a little more than a month away. Certainly we want to be on the safe side. And like Councilmember Smith said, it looks like inside's more dangerous than outside. I know that I just read the North Kansas City Connection for the summer, and it's got, the date and time of the meeting and where it's at. So if we do change it, then I think what we ought to do is at least send a letter to every resident and business in the city to let them know, hey, there's a change in the meeting. This is where it's going to be and what time. We do want to hear from our businesses and our residents. And I agree that public comments are absolutely crucial in this. So that's my take on it. And plus, I think, I don't know too, if we do push it back, how are we doing on the data with the traffic study? That was in June. Still a lot of things were shut down. Are we going to get some accurate numbers? Is another question I have.
We're working on the data this month. So that's in answer to that question. So I have Councilmember DeLong, Mayor Stilo, Councilmember Farr, and Councilmember Saper. Councilmember DeLong.
I definitely think anytime you have an issue like this where both sides are so passionate about it, you're going to have long public meetings. I mean, we're here for that. We can't deny that. I don't see how you would tell people that, no, you can't participate in the process now. I mean, I feel like that's part of the accusations that we've been accused of how we got here to begin with. So I definitely think it'd be not in favor of shutting out the public. And in terms of venue and date, like it was mentioned before, we've already put that date out there several times. But I would support moving the date or venue. I mean, COVID's rapidly changing here, so we don't know what tomorrow looks like. That's all I have for the moment.
Mayor Stilo, Councilmember Farr, Councilmember Saper, and Councilmember Tull. Mayor Stilo.
Yeah, the thing that gets me is that I've read that public survey from the business community, and then they won from the community, and overwhelmingly they are not real happy with it. And these are the people that I thought that I was elected to represent. I'm not elected to represent KC Bike and Walk. If they're citizens of North Kansas City, but I think that we've heard that. And I don't know why we have to keep going back and overhauling it and rehashing it. I'm just afraid that anything we do, I think everybody's locked in on where they're at and they're not going to change their mind. And so I wonder why we just don't go ahead and vote on it and be done with it. I'm done.
Councilmember Farr.
If we have it in the Performing Arts Center as of right now, I wouldn't be in favor of them going because we're still holding our meeting virtually. We have it out in the stadium. How are we going to televise it to everybody? Who's going to go in and mark the places on the stadium seats every 6 feet apart? Because it's going to be the city's responsibility to do this. I don't think we have the equipment and stuff to televise it, do we?
No, sir. It would not be televised either if it were in the Performing Arts Center, I don't believe. Not something we've talked about, or in a football stadium if we did it there.
Then I'm not for either one of the places then. I'm still talking, thank you. But I'm not for either one of them. Plus, if the COVID, it changes daily. But if it's right now, I'm not going to go because I don't want to be part of being that close to somebody. Thank you, that's all.
Councilmember Saper, Councilmember Tull, and Councilmember DeLong.
I'm concerned that we set up some priority for actual residents to speak and actual active businesses located in North Kansas City. I agree with the mayor that some of these organizations and groups that represent the metropolitan area, we can listen to them, but I don't want to hear them, 20 of their members speaking on the same thing. And we need to listen to our residents and the businesses that are here and get their opinions on whether we should in fact expand what I think is a bad idea, the whole project, or in fact modify it and maybe in some ways reduce it closer to what it was.
Councilmember Tull and Councilmember DeLong.
Okay. I agree that I think meeting in person is probably dangerous, but I don't want to delay it because whatever your position is, one thing that's said overwhelmingly on all sides is they don't like the temporary setup with the delineators. Those delineators weren't supposed to stay, the sticks that are set up instead of bump outs. They were supposed to be placeholders, but we're kind of been in this holding pattern of not moving forward, and nobody on any side likes the delineators. So I don't want to push off the meeting, but we aren't allowed to interact. At least last time when people got up to speak, the city council listened, but we're not engaging. So would it be possible to hold the meeting virtually like we are now and have a cutoff time for written responses that we could post or publish and discuss? Just trying to think around some way to move forward, like the mayor said, and get past this hump either way, whichever way it goes. Just an idea if we wanted to do it virtually.
Councilmember DeLong.
All right, so to follow up on Councilmember Farr's point, so as of now, you aren't planning on videotaping it in the auditorium? Is that what I heard?
That's correct. I think we might be able to do an audio, but I don't know that we would be able to do a video.
I'm struggling with that a little bit. I definitely think if we could find a way to whether I don't know if it'd even be possible to do it through, I don't know what kind of mobile device of some sort, whether that be on Facebook Live or continue it on through YouTube Live like we normally do. I mean, at the very least, get it online somehow.
We can try to figure something out.
I definitely think because there's going to be a lot of people that want to participate again, and there's also going to be a lot of people that aren't comfortable coming in person. So I think you need to have the option to have it video live streamed as well.
Councilmember Stewart.
You know, we made the decision not to do it on the road the first time without having meetings, having people tell us what they like. I think we know what our citizens and our businesses like from the survey. I mean, it's overwhelming. What do you want to hear at another meeting? Outsiders. That's all you're going to hear different than the survey. You know, we're like to make decisions. Do we have a public meeting on everything we vote on? No. We have heard from our citizens and our businesses. We don't have to hear from anybody else. I've never been invited to come and speak or anything to Kansas City, what they're doing with whatever. And we don't need to do it either. we need to know what our own citizens and our own businesses want, and we have heard it.
Amen.
Councilmember Smith.
Rick, I appreciate the passion on that one. Have you ever worked for somebody you might have disagreed with? What if they had got to answer a survey on your behalf? You know, the business owners may have one opinion, their employees may feel differently, and both of them spend an equal amount of time in the city. There's a lot of people that come through our city that are not residents, but they spend money here. They have a stake in the outcome of this. And this is, I mean, this is a big deal. This isn't just a small issue. This is maybe one of the biggest issues we've had in a long time. And I think we need to hear from all sides of this, be they residents, be they business owners, or people who work at the businesses here. We have a lot of employees who use these streets, who drive up and down Armour, who bike around town. So I think it's very important to hear from the public on a matter of this magnitude. I don't think we can just rely on what we saw on a survey, especially without any follow-up. There are some questions I have. I want to know if people said they didn't like everything about Armour, they wanted to change a few things or add back pedestrian or change some of how the lanes are configured. I want to hear that specifically. What are you looking for? Not just we want to change. What specifically would you like change? And that's what we can hear in public comments.
Councilmember Clark, and then Councilmember DeLong.
Were there ever any major visual indicators sent out? Like, I think there was an initial request of, can we see what would be in place of those delineators, sort of like a visual progression of what this project is supposed to look like in the end game. And I know in the Complete Streets packet and things I voted on, I don't know how many years ago now, putting little stickers of what I wanted things to look like. That was done. But I feel like what's missing, even in the survey, when we just take a visual thing and put it into quick words of, do you like it or do you not like it, scrap it or keep it, it becomes complicated because you're missing then the overall vision. Because we all, I think, can agree the delineators are, they need to go in a bonfire somewhere. I mean, it's not anyone's favorite thing. And it makes things confusing on what the vision is meant to be because there's sticks everywhere. But I think if there's some sort of visual progression that, you know, somebody can do as a little side project, but something that shows some sort of indicator visually where we see it going so we can make an informed decision. So the city can make an informed decision. And when we talk about businesses, being in Ward 4, being in some of the bigger money-making businesses in North Kansas City, I have had direct requests from people that may not live here. Some of them do live here, but they commute. They want to be able to commute. They're getting incentives for commuting to some of their jobs that are over in this area. And I would like to see that connectivity because, as you know, we're on that swing on this side where people don't even know there's residents over here in Ward 4. So I just think that's something major that I want to consider. And it's not that I want to see this stretch out any longer. But I think we can, like we said, in preparation of like an August 11th meeting, and I do not think it should be held in person either. I think it could be helpful to kind of put not just a yes or no, but some sort of ideas behind it, or what the chief complaint might be. But I think it helps if people actually have a vision of what phase 1 through 4, or however many phases we're planning. I have to look. What that'll look like so they can actually make an informed decision before we just kind of burn up the money that was already spent. That's it.
We did present the final, what the project would look at its completion prior to council deciding to act. We can put out those same visuals again in some way if that's council's desire. Councilmember DeLong.
No, just the comment that we made the decision without public comments or public meetings. I mean, there were, I don't even remember, a handful of meetings that led up to the decision. There were open houses. There was the pop-up parklet. I mean, this was meeting after meeting after meeting. This just didn't develop overnight, and then we approve it. So I don't know why we wouldn't continue the conversation now. Yes.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, just real quick. have you ever wondered why this project stops at Ozark? It's because past Ozark is a state highway and they're not going to let you screw it up.
So one thing, if I may, Councilmember Smith, and then I'll call on you, but I guess one thing that I've heard in the discussion that maybe would be useful to have a motion and a vote on is whether you want to continue to do it on August 11th or if you want to defer it. I'll just throw that out there for your consideration. Councilmember Smith.
If we were to make that motion, would we need to pick a new date, or would we just defer it indefinitely pending a new date? Or would we also need to decide if we're doing it in person or virtually, as Councilmember Cole mentioned? I think that's a great suggestion. Publish comments. People can write what they believe. So if we motion this, Eric, do we need another date already? Because we kind of threw August 11th in off the cuff, and now I don't want to see that happen again.
No, sir, I don't think you have to establish another date. You could elect to defer it until, let's say, a time when the COVID-19 crisis seems to be more in control, for example. So I don't think you have to establish a future date if you don't want to.
Okay.
Councilmember Tull?
I think if we're waiting on COVID to be under control, we could be waiting 2 years. So could we first vote on whether or not we want to meet in person at some capacity or do written in comments and do virtual? Because that would change my vote on whether or not we do August 11th. I'm in favor of just getting this over with, like the mayor said, either way, whichever way it goes. But I'm afraid that if we wait until COVID is under control, we're going to be at a standstill for another 2 years.
Well, you can move and, a motion and a second and a vote, and you can move this forward in any way you like. When you, just so I understand, when you say take written comments and then do a virtual, so are you suggesting that it would just be the council like tonight's meeting and that you would get written comments submitted to you ahead of time for your consideration?
Yes, maybe not personally to me, but if there was a way for businesses, and yes. And I think that those comments could be posted for the whole public to read. It wouldn't just be us, but we would be doing a virtual meeting with the comments.
Thank you for the clarification.
So can I move for that?
Yes, ma'am, please.
This is a big moment. I've never moved anything, so tell me if I do it wrong. I have a motion, correct? That no, I move to hold the meeting virtually. The August 11th meeting virtually.
Councilmember Clark, were you seconding or did you? Okay.
And peace.
So it's been moved and seconded by Councilmember Tull, seconded by Councilmember Clark, that the meeting on the Armor Road Complete Street project be held virtually. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Smith, and then Councilmember Farr.
I can get behind that, but I would also need to know that staff will find a way to have public comments heard or read publicly. So as Lisa mentioned, having them published on a page or a forum or something that can be viewed by anybody so that they know what the discussion is, or to have a way to either set up a revolving door on the Zoom meeting where people could join, speak for their time, and then come off of the meeting. One way or another, we have to hear from the public on this. So I would agree with this as long as we have public input.
Certainly, we could have written comments for everyone to see. I think I would not want to commit to being able to take scores of comments virtually. We could look at it, but I think that might prove cumbersome and difficult. So just on that. But certainly in terms of having any written comments supplied, available to everyone to see, the council and the public, of course. Councilmember, yes.
On that one, if they, during their submission of a comment, if they could label, I'm a resident, I'm a business owner, I'm an employee, or I am someone of the community who just visits North Kansas City, they need to let us know where they're at on that spectrum.
Absolutely.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Farr and then Mayor Stilo.
So we've got approximately 30 days to do this in. For one, are we set up to do it in-house? to be able to handle hundreds of people? Number two, are we being able to handle mailers, phone calls, whatever's out to the businesses, out to the residents in the next 30 days?
That is asking us to do a lot in a short period of time. I will.
That's what we're asking. 30 days.
Can I amend it to not say the date and just say virtual?
Councilmember Clark, will you accept that amendment to the motion?
So just saying, we're not sure on the date, but we want to make it virtual either way. Right?
That is.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll second that.
All right. So I believe there's a motion and a second to hold the meeting virtually, but on a date undetermined in the future at this point. Councilmember Smith.
That seems fair. What I don't want to end up is an indefinite delay. Eric, do you know with what we would need to do to notify the public, do you know how long that might take? I mean, is 30 days, 60 days a reasonable time frame?
If you allow us to do it by electronic media, then that is something we can do. If you require us to send out mailers to, by U.S. mail to businesses and residents, then that becomes more difficult. I will say, I believe we can get the word out to most people that would be interested electronically without doing U.S. mail to large numbers of people, but I'd leave that to the council.
That's a tricky one because I know I've had businesses reach out to me saying they needed a mailer. They miss email correspondence that comes through. They'll miss electronic media. They need something physically in their hands, and some residents feel the same way. So it's something of this magnitude. If we're making a shift that doesn't line up with what we put out in the NKC connection, it might have to be something physical. I agree that most will get the electronic media, but the ones who don't will not be happy that they missed it.
We will do whatever council directs. Councilmember Clevenger and then Councilmember Farr.
To talk about Jesse's point too, I've had several residents that are older that don't use the electronic means as far as Facebook or email. So I think the mailer is very important. It does take more time. If we're going to have this meeting and we're going to do it virtually, let's do it right. So I am in firm belief that the mailers would be good to the businesses and residents too, because sometimes it gets buried under the other 1,000 emails that we get. So I'm on board with the virtual meeting at a date that when staff can have everything lined up for us and public can present their comments.
Councilmember Farr.
And there again, though, in the near future, is the city capable of doing this virtually? Do we have the equipment stuff to do hundreds of these people calling in?
I think that would be a challenge, sir. Now, if you would allow us to take comments and post them on an electronic bulletin board, so to speak, then that is something we can do. But if you're asking yeah, go ahead, sir.
But what I hear is we want to do it virtually like we're doing right now and talk to hundreds of people.
No, I meant we would meet virtually, but they would be written comments that are posted for everyone to see in the city, outside of the city. Yeah. But our meeting would be in.
So if we do this, are we going to give them 30 days to do this, to write in, or are we going to give them 30 minutes to do this?
Good question.
Jesse, you're looking at me funny. Are we going to give them 30 days to write their comments in, or are we going to give them 30 minutes to write our comments in?
From the day they have notice until the meeting, they would have time to put their comments on the public forum.
But a lot of them won't get their mailers on the same date as everybody else, though.
Right. So they would have at a minimum from when the mailer lands, they would have, even if we sent them out in a week or more, they would have 3 weeks to put the comment on a forum. Now that's why we're discussing the date. So if Eric wants to give us an idea, if we're thinking we need another month, then we can approve that. But I would like to see some point where this is going to actually happen.
We would probably suggest that you do it on a second or fourth Tuesday, because Tuesdays are nights that you typically meet, and it's the opposite of the first and third when you have your regular meetings.
So we'd be looking at second or fourth Tuesday in September.
Whatever you tell us. I mean, we can, now just remember though, that we have budget meetings in September. We have 2 budget meetings that are scheduled September 2nd and September 8th. So the second Tuesday is currently scheduled as a budget work session.
The 22nd is kind of the landing date that I'm hearing.
Perhaps if that suits you. Councilmember Farr.
And a suggestion only, if we had some sort of introduction page that said, are you a business with your name, or you're a resident with your name, your address, and then your concerns underneath it. So when this gets posted, we know exactly what's going on.
Yes, sir. We understand that desire. We'll figure something out to have entities identify themselves as one of those.
Thank you.
So am I hearing a motion to hold the forum on the Armor Road Complete Street project on September 22nd in a virtual setting? Councilmember, I'm doing your motion for you, Councilmember Tall. Sorry, but if you don't mind, I think that's what I'm hearing.
No, that was perfect.
Okay, Councilmember Tall and Councilmember Clark, you accept that?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there any further discussion on the motion to hold the Armor Road Complete Street project forum in a virtual setting on September 22nd? If not, City Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
8-0, motion carries. Proposal for wayfinding sign installation.
Thank you. I'd like to call on the Community Development Director, Sarah Copeland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city's adopted gateway signage master plan includes an appendix that contains a design for wayfinding signage to coordinate with the gateway signs, which includes designs for pole-mounted signs, tentative locations, and suggested sign content. Last June, June of 2019, the City Council approved a design contract with Star Signs from Lawrence to complete the final design of these wayfinding signs for final dimensions, pole details, and materials. Star Signs prepared shop drawings that were reviewed and approved by city staff. And the final costs for the signs planned to be installed this year were provided to us immediately before the stay-at-home order was issued. And at that time, all capital projects that were not already underway were put on hold. So tonight we're coming to council to ask if you are interested in moving forward with a smaller number of wayfinding signs this summer, or if you would like to continue to wait. The fully implemented wayfinding signage project would involve 16 pole-mounted signs and 2 parking monument signs. One option that staff has put together in this memo that you have in your packet tonight is the possibility of moving forward with 4 pole-mounted wayfinding signs, 3 on Armor Road and 1 on Swift near 16th Avenue. These would direct visitors to key destinations around town. 1 would direct visitors to the public parking lot on Erie. And the cost of doing the smaller installation would be $51,500. The map that's in the memo that was in your packet tonight shows in green dots what we would propose for the initial 4 signs, with blue dots indicating the future sign installations that would still remain to be done. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councilmember DeLong.
Yeah, so I got an email from a constituent wanting to know if all the signs are just going to be one-sided, like in the picture here, where it shows the front with directional, but the back just says NKC. Are they all going to be like that?
Yes, that was the design that was adopted as part of the signage master plan, is that the front side has, directs traffic to certain destinations, and that the back says NKC.
And so their commentary was kind of just worried on the pedestrian side of everything too, on foot. Maybe you're on one side or the other of the street there and looking at that near sign, you're just not able to.
Right. These were designed to be to accommodate vehicle traffic, so people who are driving. The full signage master plan also included a new design for downtown kiosks that would be pedestrian oriented. At this time, we're not recommending moving forward with those. If we were moving forward with the downtown streetscape project, those new kiosks might be folded into that project.
All right, good. So we'll eventually get there, just not this round. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Tull.
I just wanted to say thank you for the options with the different colors, so we know what's coming next and that you're being frugal to do what we need right away. Also, I think it's really important that we have where you can park public, because that's the thing I keep hearing from people. They want to know where you can park, and if we're taking parking away, where is it going to go? And I think the signage will really help with that, so people know public spaces to park. So thank you for doing that.
Councilmember Saper.
I think the decision to put on hold earlier this year was a good one. I see no reason to move ahead with just a partial path, a partial implementation when we don't know what the final result will be like. So I would be opposed to going ahead with it at all.
If there's no more discussion, would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the proposal for wayfinding sign installation.
At with the 4 signs, sir?
I'm sorry. Yes, as described here in the packet.
Okay.
With the 4 signs.
A second.
Is there any further discussion?
Council, you ready for me to call roll?
Yes, please.
Councilmember DeLong.
Wrong button. Am I back on? No, I'm not.
There
we go.
you are.
Yes. Yes. Finally got it. Yes.
Councilmember Saper.
No.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Tull.
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 7-1, motion carries. MCA Fire Access Drive Repair, resolution number 20-041.
Thank you. In the memo in your packet, Seth went into in fairly considerable detail describing an incident occurring that does involve the greenhouse that was mentioned earlier tonight that has begun construction at the North Kansas City Community Center, North Kansas City Y. I won't go through it all in that detail that's in the memo, but the main point is that when we provide plans to the Y that they used to design the location of the greenhouse, they did not include irrigation lines. They did not show irrigation lines that are currently on the property. And so when they were putting in footings for the greenhouse, they ran into those irrigation lines. They made a field change. We did not have the conversation, the communication that we should have had before they made that field change. And in making that field change, they did do some damage to the fire lane that exists on the property, which is hidden, so it's not that evident. So the question is, who should pay for the cost of repairing the fire lane? On balance, I'm recommending to you that since we did not have the information regarding the irrigation lines in the plans that were provided to them, that we use the budget that is available in the community center fund for capital repairs to fund this repair. And so resolution number 20041 is before you accordingly. Councilmember Stewart and then Councilmember Clevenger.
I agree. We should do it, but I can't remember what kind of surface was that, because it's up below the ground a little bit. Was that concrete or asphalt or what was it?
Sarah, are you able to speak to that?
I believe that it's a geomat. I couldn't give you any more details than that.
But it's a solid surface, right?
Capable of holding a fire vehicle.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right.
That's all I want to know.
Councilmember Clevenger and then Councilmember DeLong.
A couple of things. So first of all, when the community center was built, and I know that was before your time, Eric, I don't understand. I know it's our fault that the irrigation lines weren't marked on the drawings. I don't see how that happens. When you're building something, especially that was built in 2000, I believe, or 1999, the community center. So, I mean, I don't see how, and I'm not trying to blame staff, but I don't see how that happens where the irrigation lines are not marked on the drawings. So yeah, I mean, it's our fault that we didn't let the Y know there, that they were there, but also it's their fault that they didn't wait to figure out what to do instead of just going ahead and doing something and hoping that it worked out. So I understand that, I would like to see them split it, pay half of it, and we pay half of it. But I mean, if it ends up us paying it all, then that's fine too. But that's my opinion, is that they should pay for a part of it because they did not wait and get guidance after what they found. But again, I still don't understand how we don't have those irrigation pipes in the drawings in the first place. Thanks.
So I think Chief Hargis, you wanted to speak to the material of the fire lane, and then I'll call on Councilmember DeLong.
Yes, Eric and council, it's like a honeycombed concrete structure beneath the ground and allows the grass to grow up and cover it up, but it's concrete. It's like a concrete honeycomb.
Thank you, Chief Hargis. Councilmember DeLong.
It runs right along that sidewalk that we see in the picture.
Yes, it does.
Okay, that's what I sat out there a lot on election day, so we were trying to figure out where exactly it was. So, thank you.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve resolution 20-041.
Second.
Second.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
No.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
No.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
6-2, motion carries. Approving accounts due and payable by the city through July 3rd, 2020. Bill number 7519, ordinance number 9316.
First reading.
Second.
Councilmember, oh, I've got the wrong name here. Hang on. Councilmember DeLong.
Twice now. Am I back on? Yes.
Wait a minute, I have to solve this stuff. Hang on just a second. Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through July 3rd, 2020.
I move that bill number 7519 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9316.
Second.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through July 3rd, 2020.
Thank you. The next item is staff comments. I'd like to begin by calling on Chief Freeman.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to let you guys all know the Police Department will be hosting a community forum next Tuesday, July 14th at 7:00 p.m. at the Festival Shelter at Mackin Park. This forum will be conducted in similar fashion of other community events that we have hosted in the past. We felt it was an important time to have the ability to discuss police community relations in North Kansas City and give our residents and business owners a chance to ask questions about processes and practices in North Kansas City. We look forward to seeing many of you there next week. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the forum.
What time was it?
7:00, sir.
Councilmember Clevenger. You're muted, sir.
Is it going to be like a question and answer, or is it going to be like an agenda as far as how do you envision working with the public there, Chief?
It is going to be slated as a question and answer format. We have given residents and business owners through our Facebook and webpage the opportunity to submit questions ahead of time if they can't make it. So we'll definitely work off of those, but it'll just be an open forum, no agenda. It's going to be kind of similar to what we've been doing in the past several years at the high school. You have the opportunity to spend some time with the police, ask them anything that you want to ask them.
Councilmember Smith.
This is great. Thank you for doing this, Chief Freeman. This is a very important discussion to have. Will this be broadcast in any way, a YouTube channel or on public access, so that those who can't or don't feel comfortable making it out to the park can watch?
No, sir.
We will have an audio. I'm sorry, Chief. We'll have an audio recording, is what I was going to say. Chief, did you want to add something?
That's correct, and I think we're going to try to at least have one video recording with the audio, so it is good quality audio as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Councilmember DeLong.
There we go. Got the right button there. I just want to thank staff and Chief Freeman for putting this together. I think it definitely will go a long ways. And then, if anyone has any questions, it give a good forum for people to come out and have some of those addressed. So thank you, everyone, for working on putting this together.
Councilmember Tull.
Just for anybody who's listening, it's posted on the city's calendar. But if you wanted to submit questions or comments, they have written down police@nkc.org is where they would send them, right, Chief Freeman?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. I failed to mention that. Yeah, police@nkc.org is the best way to submit questions ahead of time if you can't make it or just don't feel comfortable asking them and you are still going to plan on making it.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Chief, thank you. And there are a number of reports in your packet. Upcoming city items of note: YMCA monthly financial report for May of 2020, and the quarterly status of city projects and purchases report. Happy to try to answer any questions if you have any. If not, that concludes staff comments. The next item is council member comments, and we'll begin with Councilmember DeLong.
So I had a question for staff. It's come up a couple different times in different forums. It's just the way we're doing public comments now. Would it be possible to consider allowing people to enter into the Zoom, make a public comment, and then kick them back out of the room?
I think we can. Let me talk to our IT manager, Stephen Roberts. We can probably figure something out, but I'd like to talk to him first.
Yeah, no, that'd be fine, because it's definitely something I've seen in a lot of other cities. Is now, of course, everyone's on 1,000 different platforms, so they all work a little bit differently. But if it's manageable, I think it'd be something people would appreciate, that have the option to be able to actually get on and live talk to us again, if we're going to continue online at least.
Let me talk to him and we'll,
Yep.
we established the procedure we did because we were kind of going on the fly, but we can look at trying to be flexible about that. So I'll talk to him and we'll get back to you.
Perfect. And that's all I got for tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Saper,
Nothing right now.
Councilmember Smith.
Just a couple things for me. Do we think we could have a special council meeting to work out how to work Zoom cameras and microphones? And I'm just kidding. That could streamline the meetings just a little bit. So I do a lot of walking around North Kansas City with a stroller. And I've noticed that as I walk, there's a pretty significant amount of cars that park across the sidewalk, particularly in the Avenues area. Is there anything that can be done to slow that down or to address? I know we have parking attendants that kind of ride around. I see them riding down the streets. Could that be addressed via a parking citation or just a warning of some kind that I don't even know if people realize they're doing it? But it does, like if you're walking down the sidewalk and somebody's parked across the way, you have to walk out onto the street, out and around their car, and then back onto the sidewalk. Is there something we could do about that?
Chief Freeman, will you comment?
Certainly, yeah. Councilmember Smith, certainly as a walker and a jogger, I feel your pain when I'm walking around my neighborhood as well. We'll put a renewed emphasis on it. We typically, if we come across it, we'll try to walk up and knock on the door and see if we can get the people to move. Because like you said, many people don't even realize they're violating the law by doing that. If we can't get the person's attention, then we can cite them or issue a warning. But yeah, I'll send something out tomorrow and get a renewed emphasis onto it.
Much appreciated. And, you know, I'm not looking to get people in trouble, just to let them know that this is something that they shouldn't be doing. Also wanted to thank Mr. Halver for most of the sidewalks in North Kansas City are in great shape. I know that there's been an emphasis on replacing portions of them. It's hard to avoid the fact that curbs dip off at driveways. I know that people don't like that too much, but the parts that we can do work on, it seems to be doing a good job. Is there a way that citizens can reach out if there's like a really deteriorated piece of sidewalk that they would like to see repaired that's kind of a tripping hazard?
Yes, sir. We actually rely on citizens to advise us of sidewalks because we can't see all the trippers. And we get lots of calls and we respond to them.
What is the best way? Should they just call into your department, or is there an email address that would be good to send it to?
I'm going to ask the city clerk to indicate our general city hall email. What is that, Crystal? Do you recall offhand?
Crystal's muted.
I need to take that class. The best way to do it is to do a service request, which they can get on our website. And then I check those every day and get them out to who they need to go to. And that's how a lot of people tell us about the sidewalks and potholes and trees and anything.
Okay, not to create too much of a burden, but if the city could share that on a social media push or something along those lines so people know how to get to it. I myself have trouble navigating the website occasionally. So that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll do that. Councilmember Tull?
No comments, but thank you, I guess, to Chief Freeman. That is a comment. Thank you to Chief Freeman for the forum next week, and I'll be there.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Thank you. Yeah, definitely want to piggyback on Lisa's comments for Chief Freeman. Getting that set up, I'm definitely going to attend as well. And thank you to Jesse for bringing up about the cars blocking the sidewalks. A lot of times it does happen in the avenues because of the shorter driveways, but I'm a walker as well and I have to go around the cars as well. So on that note, walking around the neighborhood and just a renewed emphasis again for animal owners. If you've got animals and they're going in somebody's yard, then definitely make sure that you pick up the animal feces. It is the law. just to remind people to do that. I mean, that's what I always do. If I go in somebody's yard, I make sure I pick it up. But just to throw that out there as a reminder. And another reminder as well, just to encourage people to mask up when you're out in public. Indoors especially, it sounds like, it spreads more indoors with the droplets that are staying in the air. So definitely mask up. The only last thing I'll say is I wanted to recognize that the city was recognized in the Missouri Municipal League as far as some emails. Well, number one for the mask ordinance, and number two for the grant program that we did for our local businesses. I've actually heard from a couple of businesses that did not receive some grants, and actually they stated didn't know about the grant program. Like one was American Fusion, and there was another hair salon. So, I would encourage all businesses to either get into Business Council or River North. And I'm not sure, I told them, wasn't sure if we're going to do a second round of grants or not, but that'll be up to the council in the future. But, getting the word out, I'm sure, Rich Grove sent out emails to the Business Council and members, and I'm sure River North let their members know. Just get that push out there if we ever do it again. That's it.
Councilmember Stewart.
Just one thing, since Jesse mentioned the cars, and I see it, me too, but also, and I don't think it's so much the residents doing it, but with the trash guys, I leave my barrels on my grass right there by the sidewalk, and they'll dump them and put them on the sidewalk. And it's the same obstacle. You got to go out in the street to go around them. So whoever talks to the trash people might want to remind them. They've been doing good service, I think, but remind them that those containers are not to be set back on the sidewalk. That's all I got.
Councilmember Clark.
No, I would just echo the appreciation for the forum next week. Looking forward to it. Chief Ream, that's a good move. And yeah, that's it for now.
Councilmember Farr.
None this evening, sir. Thank you.
Mayor Stila.
Have we come to any resolution on these parklets and how long they can leave their barricades up when they're not using them?
Those that have been granted the authority to have a parklet can leave them up all day. They are not required to take the barricades down. They can if they wish, but they are not required to.
Do you think we ought to change that?
Well, that was what was allowed in the ordinance that you passed. So I think the idea, the concern, one of the things about the ordinance that's there is that it allows them if they wish. And of course, right now we only have one, and that's in front of Screenland Armor. They're the only ones that have applied. But it would allow them to leave like patio furniture and such out if they wish to. And I think also a concern might be that if they take barricades down, then there might be cars parked there when they are ready to use them later in the day.
Okay, that's all I got.
Before I read the next item, our email address is cityhall@nkc.org. If you guys wanted that.
Thank you.
Number 21, consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city councilor to be held on this date on a litigation matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statutes, section 610.0211.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman.
Pearman.
Oh, Councilmember Farr, where did that come from? Councilmember
They don't
Farr.
even look like her.
Oh, I think she's sending me a message.
Poor Valerie.
8-0 motion carried. Number 22, consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city councilor to be held on this date on a litigation matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statutes, section 610.0211.
So moved. Second.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
One more. Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city councilor to be held on this date on a litigation matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statutes, section 610.0211.
So moved. Second.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're back live on TV.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You guys have it.
Night,
Thank you. Good
everybody.
night.
Good night.
Say good night, Chloe.